What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, your number one spot for all things Auburn athletics. Episode 32, the Sam Sherrod episode for all you A-Day lovers out there. So,
if you put it backwards, that's 23. It's our Jordan episode, kind of.
Or Ontario McCaleb, which the better athlete. No, just kidding. But yeah, we have a great interview coming along with Zac Blackerby, who me and him went back and forth a little bit on some Auburn comparisons that he seemed to like. So y'all will like it too. So, and of course, I am again joined by Mr. Harrison Tarr and Daniel Locke in an episode right after we were all in the same place. Now we are back in our three separate locations. So how y'all two doing this evening?
I'm doing great,
pretty good. First things first, Mr. Tarr, happy birthday.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. No better way to spend my birthday, the evening of my birthday, than on the loop. And I mean that sincerely. I love what I do, man. I love what we get to do. This is a ton of fun. And we've got a really, really fun episode and a great interview. Banter with Zac Blackerby. My favorite thing to do is banter with Zac Blackerby and bother him. So we got to do it on the air, which is a ton of fun. And Daniel, thank you very much. I mean, it means a lot to me. And I appreciate it. I got to spend, both you guys got to spend the weekend with y'all and ring in 23 the only way I knew how, by watching the Tigers. So...
All right, so to get started with football, we have a great spring practice overlook with Zac Blackerby, but we're going to start off talking about the combine with just us because I'm the only sicko that I know of that sat down and watched the combine, just because I love the sport of football that much. But yeah, on Sunday, we got to watch Tank Bigsby try out his hand at of all the drills, and he was listed at 6 foot tall, 210 pounds when he was measured. And he ran a 4.56 40, vertical jump of 32.5 inches, broad jump 9'11", and he did 21 bench press, which I was not able to track because I thought they were over with it. But 21 on the bench press, that's 2 less than what Colby Wooten did. But again, bench press isn't really a strength thing; it's more of an endurance thing because it's just how many you could do at one given time. But from what I've heard, Tank Bigsby had a really good combine. I don't know how far up he jumped in this running back room because I know a lot of other guys really showed out. Jahmyr Gibbs is another guy I've heard about, which hurts a lot of Bama fans, but helps a lot of Georgia Tech fans. Probably not helps him a lot because he dipped on the team.
No. Georgia Tech claims him. I can, from an insider standpoint, Tech claims Jahmyr Gibbs.
All right, so if Jahmyr Gibbs ends up being an MVP candidate, expect Georgia Tech to claim him like Alabama fans try to claim Jalen Hurts. So it's along the same lines.
Except for he spent. Never mind. It's exactly like them claiming Jalen Hurts. Never mind.
Yep. But with that, yeah, he a really good combine from all of these guys. Really, I've heard Anders performed pretty decently. I wasn't able to see some of his drills, and of course, kickers don't really run the 40. I think one punter and a long snapper did, which I was like,
heck yeah, okay. I would do it. Why not?
I mean, yeah, why not? Just the punt be the next punt god. But
your own coverage. Imagine,
dude, the punter leads special teams and tackles.
Exactly.
But yeah, so we're gonna cut to our interview with Zac Blackerby, and you can catch all the information of Auburn football spring practice overviews on the Auburn Daily, and of course, you're gonna hear it all from him here.
Yes, it is now my pleasure to welcome onto the show longtime friend of the program, first appearance on the College Loop, leader of the charge of the Auburn Daily, host of Locked on Auburn, Mr. Zac Blackerby, all-around legend. How are you doing today, man?
It is such an honor to be on the loop with all of you fine gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
Dude, it is our pleasure. We're here. We're ready to talk some Auburn football, some spring ball. I know you don't do that enough. I know that you're waiting for somebody to ask you about it. I know that you're not getting enough reps in elsewhere. Let's jump right into football, guys. And Blackerby, you've been really on as Daniel goes, I guess, turns his fan on. He must be getting overheated here. And Blackerby, you've really been on the case here with spring practice, and you've been hitting it hard. Who's trending up? Who's trending down? What are some names to watch before we kind of get into the rest of this?
Yeah, I think offensive linemen, right? That group of 5 starting offensive linemen, and it doesn't seem like there's been a whole lot of shifting. I mean, of course, the media window, we only get to see like 20, 25-ish minutes. But just talking to folks that are there for the entire practice, it doesn't sound like there's much substitution happening with the starting offensive line. You're seeing that in a lot of different other positions. So, Dylan Wade, the transfer from Tulsa at left tackle, the transfer Gunnar Britton from Western Kentucky at right tackle, and that center, the transfer from East Carolina, Avery Jones. He physically really, really impressed me. I think he's an NFL center after this season. And then the guards, Cam Stutz at right. And then on the left side, Tate Johnson, who was Auburn's center for a chunk of last year before going down. I think that will eventually be Jeremiah Wright. But I think those are the guys that are trending up. As far as guys trending down, and I hate to do this so early in spring, but I don't think the quarterback situation is great, gentlemen. I'm not sold on it. I don't think this coaching staff is sold on it. And I think we'll learn more about that situation throughout spring. And then ultimately in that May transfer window, whether guys stay or who else comes in. But yeah, if I had to pick a position that's trending up, it's O-line. And I think the quarterbacks may be trending down.
That's one of those hard conversations that Auburn fans don't love having right now, because you want to have a ton of faith in the raw athleticism. No one's denying the athletic capacity of Robbie Ashford. I think we're questioning his arm more than anything, and maybe a little bit of football IQ here and there. Let's go ahead and address that one. I know, Dylan, you've got a list here, but if this was on the list. Let's talk QB battle. Two-part question here. If Auburn rolled out onto a field with this roster right now, who's the starting job? And number two, if this isn't the roster, is the quarterback for 2023 on the roster right now? That's your second part. I'm sorry, I said that a lot.
Sure. The first part, Robbie would be the starter day one, and I think the order that they went through drills reflects that. And I think Robbie's probably the best quarterback on this roster when it comes to team drills too. I think the team also likes Robbie the most, just being honest. And then the other aspect of that would be, is the 2023 guy on this roster? No, I don't think so. If I had to bet right now, I would say he is not currently on the roster. I think there's a real chance TJ Finley transfers.
Sure.
Nobody wants to talk about it, but I think there's a real chance Holden Gurner transfers. And Robbie really kind of can't. Robbie's kind of stuck here. So it's going to come down to, I think, Robbie and somebody else in fall. That's just what my gut says.
You're not going to say it, but I'm going to ask it. Where is he playing quarterback for this spring? The guy for 2023.
I don't know. I'm not answering that.
Yeah, I know. I had to. I had to.
Yep.
Floor's open, Dylan.
All right. So last show we talked about the running back room. So what are your current thoughts on the running back room? I know it's Jarquez Hunter is one.
Totally.
But to you, how does it plan out after Jarquez?
Yeah. I think that's an interesting thing, because you've got to kind of pick a number two, and there's arguments for all of them. Brian Battie comes in from South Florida. He's got the experience, doesn't have the size. How are they going to use him? And it looks like he may have been more of a special teams ad and then just kind of a third running back ad. We'll see. So then it's Damari Austin, who's here and was here last year. I think Jeremiah Cobb has tremendous amount of upside. I think he has more upside than Damari, but he's not here yet. And so, what does that mean in regards to reps and competition and things like that? So I don't know. Hugh is very loyal to his dudes. And the only guy that Hugh has brought in currently in this room is Battie, because Cobb was committed before Hugh was hired. But I do think he and Carnell, the first day, full day of him being head coach, he was seen getting breakfast with Cobb in Montgomery, just a few hours after his press conference. He probably went to sleep and then woke up and drove to Montgomery to meet with him. So he's a priority. So I'm almost okay counting Cobb as one of Hugh's dudes. And so
sure.
I think that's going to be an awesome battle. Damari Austin and Jeremiah Cobb. That's going to be a lot of fun. But right now, I think it's Austin at 2. And then I don't think you can redshirt Cobb, though. So I think you may have Cobb and Battie returning kicks, which I think is fun. I think it's really easy to get excited about that. So, but you've got to find a way to put all 4 of those guys on the field.
That's I'm interested to see where Brian Battie plugs in, and I'm a loyal listener of the Auburn Daily show. This is not just me hyping you up here. I go back and forth about whether or not I agree with you about Jeremiah Cobb minutes. I think that you can't burn his red shirt. I think he's way too talented. Mm-hmm. I may be higher on Damari Austin than a lot of guys. I think that he can do a lot of special things. So is that split minutes at the beginning? Oh, yeah, not minutes. I'm talking basketball lingo here, but split downs.
Touches. It's March.
Touches at the beginning of the year there?
I don't know, man. It's so tough because with the amount of options in this backfield, I don't know how many minutes. I'm doing it now. You're contagious, Tarr.
I'm sorry. It's my fault. Blame it on me.
It's March. It's crazy. I don't know how many touches there are for both of them, because you got to think Jarquez is going to get 12 to 15, right?
Sure.
But I don't think he's going to like necessarily be a dude, but I think he's going to get 3 or 4, right? Like, I don't think that's crazy. I don't think you bring in a guy with 1 year left of eligibility and not use him. That'd be odd. Sure. Unless he's just seen as a kick return guy, which he may be. He may be. And if that's the case, I think it really opens up. And I think this answers the question. But I think he's going to get 3 or 4. And so then it's like, how many realistically are you going to have open after that? Like, are you fighting for like 12 carries a game right there? And sometimes more of those are going to go to Jarquez. Sometimes you may pass the ball more. If Robbie starts, he's going to get a few of those carries. So I don't know. I really don't know, because like, is it worth having Jeremiah Cobb on the field for, 2 handoffs a game? Like, it might be just because he's probably not going to be here 4 years anyway. But, when I talk about the running back situation on my show, and Tarr, you keyed it up there, like with the whole, I'm not down on Damari. I think they're both really, really good. I just think Jeremiah
I'm not being
Cobb,
accusational. I'm not accusing
sure.
you.
A lot of people are, though, so I'm addressing that. But, I think they're both just really special, and I think Jeremiah Cobb's like an NFL player. I'm not ready to say Damari Austin's an NFL player. That's all I'm saying.
Sure. I get it. I don't dispute it. You like clickbait. I like clickbait. We have to put it out there sometimes. Sometimes you got to throw it out there. And Daniel's probably got a little more clickbaity questions for you here. Not actually genuine questions. We wanted to talk ball, and I do get all my on-field information from you guys. So this is where I'm learning all of this from the film room.
The title of the show: 2 Auburn podcasters fight over Damari Austin.
Yes, and just a really, really piss poor Photoshop of you and I just boxing.
That's right. That's right. I'll send y'all a picture of me squaring up so y'all can Photoshop it in.
I'll be Mayweather. You be Paul. All right. Anyways, Daniel, floor is yours, man.
Right. So Zach, can you just kind of like tell me about your thoughts on the receiver room? Who are you high on? Who's kind of been a little disappointing if someone has, and just kind of follow that up with who you think is going to be playing where?
Yeah. So the starters that we saw in the media window, if Auburn was in a 4 wide receiver set and started the game off that way, here's who I think the starters would be. The far left receiver, I think, would be Camden Brown. The slot to the left would be Javarius Johnson. The slot to the right would be Coy Moore. Then your far right outside wide receiver, I think, would be Nick Mardner right now. Nick Mardner and Malcolm Johnson Jr. were rotating in on that far right spot. I'm not sure what the verbiage of that would be. I think in a lot of offenses, that would be the Z receiver. So we'll see how they label it when we learn more about this team and this offense and how it's run. But it's big. The Rivaldo Fairweather, big number 13, who looks like a receiver because he's so stretched out, but he's massive in the middle of the field at tight end. So I think that's what you're looking at. A lot of size, Daniel. I think you got a lot of shiftiness and explosiveness in the slot. And I'm curious to see, as far as how this offense operates, do you move your receivers around? Like, will we see Coy Moore and Javarius Johnson on the outside? I kind of hope we don't. That's something that we saw a little bit last year, as guys tried to do a little bit of everything. But I think some of that was because last year it seemed like if you pick 10 Auburn receivers, like your top 8 were slot receivers. So that right. May have been why that they did that. The roster looks a little bit different now with Camden Brown, Nick Marner, and Malcolm Johnson Jr. So as far as who's trending up, I mean, I can't get over how good Camden Brown looks, especially in that new number 4 jersey. Kind of makes you forget about Tank Bigsby pretty quick, which I never thought would happen. And then I really haven't heard a whole lot about anybody else, if I'm being honest with you.
Why are we quiet on? I know this is probably going to be fitting more in the tight end room. Where's Landon King fit in here? Because he
only took snaps at outside wide receiver, to my knowledge, so far.
Okay, yeah. And okay, that's no comment here. I'm the neutral one on the show. Dylan, go ahead before I say something I shouldn't say.
Real quick, I'm glad to hear that Nick Mardner appears to be getting some reps, because I was really high on him coming in. So I hope that continues.
He's big. He's big. And somebody asked Freeze after that practice about like catch radius. And like, that dude's long. I mean, he's a little lanky, but he is a long fella. And so when you talk about, questions at the quarterback position, you need guys with a bigger catch radius. You need that target to be as big as possible. Sure. So, can Nick Marner consistently haul that in? I think that's a little questionable, because he's not an elite receiver, right? But if he could be Auburn's number 3 guy in the receiving game, I think that's huge. I think that's a big portal win for Auburn and Mardner.
It's okay if Nick Marner's average. If you're the 3rd wide receiver, it's okay to be average as long as you're consistent. Like that's kind of my thought process on that.
And you do something that no other receiver, with the exception of Camden Brown, can do on this roster. Like, you offer size,
Sure.
He's so big, and he's pretty fast too. I mean, that's kind of how he attacked defenses when he was with the Bearcats at Cincinnati last year. Like, he got behind dudes. He didn't necessarily like moss people and win 50-50 balls, which is immediately what you think when you look at somebody as big as him.
Sure.
And so, I mean, I'm not saying you like make a game plan specifically for Nick Marner, but if you're a safety, you're pointing out where he is before the ball is snapped, which is super, super valuable.
Cool. Right on. Dylan, I know you want to talk big boys.
Yeah, before I get to the big boys, I have to question the Landon King because he's been my favorite player since A-Day of 2021. Just because is he not performing up to his speed? Is there an injury? Because I love Nick Marner. I've been comparing him to Quentin Johnston this entire offseason. But the size, the speed, and everything. But Landon King is kind of like my baby right now. He's my breakout choice for the season and all that jazz.
Yeah, Dylan, I think you need to walk up to him and call him your baby and just see what happens.
I was thinking that. Yeah,
just see what happens. And video it, because I think that would do great for the YouTube engagement. There's no question about
shorts.
Yeah, that's right. And look, I mean, I'm just talking about what we saw in that 20-minute window, right? And it sounds like he's done a little bit of. There's been, I forgot where I either saw this or who told me this, but there's been a few meetings where like he sat in with the tight ends. It sounds like, but for the most part, for the most part, yeah, he's been an outside wide receiver, and he was specifically behind Camden Brown in the drills that we saw this past Monday.
Blackerby, this is why we bring you on. These are the questions we need answered. Just because Dylan doesn't like your answer doesn't mean it's not true.
It may not be. It may not be true. It may not be true. Maybe it's a big smoke screen, and Hugh Freeze listens to the loop because we've seen him retweet you guys a ton. So maybe he's listening.
Fan of the program.
Yep, no question about it. No question about it. So yeah, maybe that's the case. Maybe that's the case. So we'll see what happens with that. But I'm with you. I think wherever you put Landon King on the field, he's going to be used at a higher rate than he was in the past. And I do think to Dylan's point, like, he was planning on leaving, and then Hugh went into the portal to bring him back, and they talked about Evan Ingram. Well, Evan Ingram was not a wide receiver, as we all know, at Ole Miss under him. He was used as a tight end. So we'll see. We'll see exactly how all that works. But it looks like Rivaldo Fairweather and then Luke Deal and Tyler Fromm are kind of the 1, 2, 3 at tight end right now.
Sure. Yeah. Dylan, big boys, I know you're there.
Yeah, I gotta go with the big boys up front. I get on the Tarr all the time for sunshine pumping with basketball, but I tend to sunshine pump a little bit with this offensive line because I've been very high. I've said this is going to be the best offensive line Auburn's seen since 2017.
Agreed.
And that Gunnar Britton's going to be the best offensive tackle Auburn's had since Greg Robinson, if not potentially better. So I just want to know what your thoughts are on the offensive line thus far, and is Gunnar Britton him, as we all know he is?
Yeah, I mean, I said the same thing, Dylan, so I'm right there with you. But I did say that before we saw where they all lined up. Gunnar Britton was recruited to be left tackle, and he came in after Dylan Wade. But it sounds like the coaching staff pulled him aside and talked to him and said, hey, we're going to put you at right. We're going to put Dylan, which you've pointed out on the Auburn Daily podcast, that Dylan Wade spells Dylan wrong, which I'm glad that you're standing up for yourself. I think that's really, really big. And I respect the heck out of it. But yeah, so Dylan Wade being at left tackle and Gunnar Britton being a right tackle, that surprised me. I had those guys flipped throughout the entirety of the offseason. And it, like I said a second ago, like, it doesn't sound like they're really moving guys around. And there haven't been a ton of practices. We'll see what all that looks like. But those two guys seem to be pretty solid there. I'm not expecting a whole lot of competition across the offensive front.
Okay. I have a follow-up. I don't have the rundown, Dylan. I need to talk linebackers for a second here, Blackerby. Yeah, I know.
It's a tricky room, man.
I'm just going to go ahead and put it in black and white. I don't understand it. I really don't. I'm confused here. Who's in? Who's out? Does the coaching staff know who's in? Who's out? Like, what's going on?
I don't think so. I don't think that they know yet. And it seems like that's the group that's rotating in and out the most in practice throughout the first week. I talked to some folks like, okay, who's the starting linebacker based off of reps? I've had some people tell me Jake Levant and Wesley Steiner. I've had people say Wesley Steiner and Eugene Asante. And I've had somebody say Jake Levant and Demario Tolan. Take that with what you will. That's based solely on like the amount of reps that they're getting. So none of those would have been my guess. I would have guessed Demario Tolan and Austin Keys with Cam Riley rotating in. But that's not
That's where
what
we've
we've
been.
seen so far. That's not what we've seen so far.
There's a very key name missing in all of those. Robert Woodyard, is he transferring more to an edge rusher, or has he kind of fallen behind in the depth chart a little bit?
No, he's rotated in. Do y'all remember what his number is?
It was 17.
17, yeah. So they've played him next to 12, which I believe is Austin Key. So those two have paired together.
Okay.
Gotcha.
That makes Dylan feel better. He'll be able to sleep.
I write down the numbers when I'm charting stuff. So
Sure.
I'm like, well, what's his number again? Yeah. So 17 is next to 12. Whenever he's been in. Yep.
Whatever works for you. Also, are there too many DBs on this team?
No, there's not enough. There's not enough. I mean, when you look at the corners right now, there's only really 4 outside corners. And so, I mean, you've got the obvious two with DJ James and Nehemiah Pritchett.
Right.
And then Kayan Lee is turning heads and was actually told today that there's a solid chance Kayan Lee fights for a starting spot, which I would assume would be with Nehemiah Pritchett opposite of DJ James. So that'd be exciting.
My boy.
And then who's the fourth one? JD Rim is the fourth one. So after that, all the corners that are currently coming in, they're scheduled to be on the 2023 roster. They're coming in the summer. And so they're not going to be going through spring. So you probably need more outside corners, if I'm being honest with you. But man, you've got a lot of safeties. You got a lot of guys that could, work out at nickel. And it doesn't seem like they're really moving a whole lot of those guys outside, which is probably the right move. But hey, another name that I've heard good things about that kind of disappeared when we're talking about DBs, Craig McDonald, the former Iowa State guy, who I rated him as my top incoming transfer last year, and then like nothing. So sounds like he's made a few plays.
Go ahead, Dylan.
All right, so with Kayan Lee turning heads and Keldrick Falk, of course, being the outstanding recruit he is, which of those two freshmen do you think is going to be the first starter on a game day roster?
Kayan Lee or who?
Keldrick Falk.
Ooh.
Kayan Lee.
Yeah.
Kayan Lee. Just because you start 2 corners. So sure. I'll go with him. And I don't see, I think Keldrick's going to play a lot, and I think you can play multiple jacks at the same time. I don't think anybody's going to hop Elijah McAllister. I just think they brought him in to be a stud, and they've rotated a lot, and it sounds like he's in with a lot of reps. His
tape is good.
I think it's fine. But I think he's going to be better in this system than he was at Vanderbilt. I mean, it's tough to excel. It's tough to excel as a good defender at Vanderbilt. So
I am as critical as it comes to film study, but when I see someone play for Vanderbilt and against SEC competition, I have to anywhere else it's an average tape. I bump it to good because he has the SEC experience now, but also
I'm cool with it.
When you're doing the best with what you got, and I like what Clarkley's doing there. Don't get me wrong, I actually really do like what Clarkley's doing there. Last year was a train wreck, regardless. I mean, better, but like the program's a train wreck. And I was pretty high coming in. Question for you about my boy Nehemiah Pritchett, real quick.
Okay.
Does he have the potential to be the most improved player on this team from administration to administration? Because I kind of think he does. If you go from Harsin to Freeze, he got better when Harsin was gone.
I don't think Nehemiah Pritchett's a bad corner.
I don't either. I
don't think he's a bad corner. I think he was used wrong, and I don't know how much bump and run stuff we're going to do on the outside, but like that's who Pritchett is. I mean, he's fast, right? And so like when you use these bump and run dudes, like he can use his speed to kind of correct if he has a misstep because he's going to be faster than the guys that are in front of him. So depending on how he's used, sure. I don't know if he's going to be the most improved defender. I don't know who that would be. Cam Riley could be that.
There you go.
If he's given a chance, or any kind of linebacker that was on last year's roster. Dylan Brooks could be that guy.
Sure.
Craig McDonald could be that guy. But I mean, I guess in theory, Nehemiah Pritchett could. But man, if I think Nehemiah Pritchett's fine. I'm not as down on Nehemiah Pritchett as most people.
I'm not either. After watching, if you look post Harsin departure to pre Harsin departure, Nehemiah Pritchett's not getting burned as much. And I don't know if it's something different in practice. His first step is better. His lateral movement is better. And maybe I'm just reading way too deep into this, but it almost felt like he was kind of set free. I know that's such a lazy analogy there, but I thought he played better football and got better as the year went on.
Well, what else happened in the defensive backfield when that happened? Jalen Simpson moved inside.
You're right.
So the rotation changed too. And so, maybe he felt more comfortable with Jalen next to him. I'm not sure. But He did look better towards the end of the year. I'll give you that. But I think the whole defense did.
Oh, agree. Dylan and I have been talking this year. I think that Nehemiah Pritchett could actually have some serious draft stock at the end of this year, at the end of 23.
I'm cool with that. Yeah, I'm totally cool with that.
And that's I guess that may be what I meant more so than anything. I think he's got a super high ceiling now. I think that there was a lid on that basket, and I think it's been taken off a little bit now. Whether even if that's just a year-to-year reset, I think that there's just a ton of upside there. So
yeah, I mean, how a lot of these pieces are going to be used is going to be vastly different. I mean, Ron Roberts runs a different type of thing than what Schmedding did.
Sure.
And then, you know, it's obviously a lot different than what, you know, Kevin Steele did defensively before that. And so this is going to be a new defense that we've never really seen anything like this at Auburn before. Because when Auburn's had good defenses, they've done it really just with talent. And I think Roberts, historically, when he's had good defense, he's done it with scheme. And he's never really had both. And I don't know if he's necessarily going to have both this year, but he will, depending on how long he stays here. And so I think that's something that's going to be exciting to see. Wreaking havoc is something that Auburn has only been able to do with having guys like, you know, Derek Brown and Marlon Davidson, or, you know, Jeff Holland having a freakishly good year, or, you know, Carl Lawson and Mon Adams, or whatever that may be, just being better than the guys they lined up against. I don't know if scheme really helped them that much. I think Ron Roberts is actually going to help scheme these guys to be better players. So Pritchett could be one of the many benefactors of that. Sure.
I was just fodder, right? Just food for thought. Dylan, go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, go back with the scheme. I mean, when Baylor was at their best, Ron Roberts' defense forced so many turnovers, and you're looking at the number 1 and 2 corners for Auburn, DJ James and Nehemiah Pritchett. I've been looking at that combo as the Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean year, where both those guys end up going in the second round, or I think Jamel Dean went the second round with Carlton.
Yeah, separate years though, but yeah.
Oh yeah, separate years, but and they're still balling out together in Tampa. Right. And I look at those two, and I see a lot of those two in these two. And with the scheme coming in, it benefits the secondary a lot. And I mean, it doesn't get better than Auburn secondary, I feel like sometimes.
Who's who in that comparison? Who's Jamel and who's?
I think Jamel is DJ. I like DJ's man coverage like I like Carlton's, and Nehemiah Pritchett and Jamel Dean are – I think Jamel's faster, but I think I see a lot of Nehemiah Pritchett because Nehemiah Pritchett had to develop a little bit more as a coverage guy like Jamel Dean had to.
Okay. All right. I like it. I don't think those guys are there yet, but as far as a comparison, yeah, I see where you're coming from. Wouldn't that be nice to have that tandem again?
Oh yeah.
Dylan's pulling out the analogies when you come on. This is new. Thank you, Dylan.
I have a doctorate in football. That's why I talk about it immensely.
That's right. Zach, did you get a chance to watch any of the combine this past week or watching the recap?
No, I have not. My second kid's going to be here like any day. So we've been like packing bags and going over stuff a million times. And so, yeah, that's where the priorities have been, man. I love the combine though, but yeah, I didn't get to watch much of it this year.
Well, first and foremost, congratulations from the college.
Thanks, buddy.
We're excited for you, man.
Thanks.
We're pumped up.
Appreciate it.
Just out of curiosity, we know Derek Hall's probably first off the board. Which Tiger going into this draft, and then we're going to let you go. If it not named Derek Hall, who's going to make an NFL team the happiest?
Man, I don't get why Colby Wooden's not getting more love. I mean, you talk about versatility and just overall upside and team first and character. Like, I think he should go above Derek, if I'm being honest with you, just as far as what he's able to do and like what you're going to be able to get out of most of the most out of a roster spot. I think Colby Wooden's exceptional. And I talked to dudes who like, scouting and all that. And I'm like, I've asked them like point blank, like in Mobile and stuff. I'm like, why is Colby Wooden not getting as much love? And these are NFL teams. They're like, I don't know. So I don't know what to do with that. But the scouts are like, yeah, I don't know why he's not getting more love. So I think that may be one that he may go earlier than a lot of people predict.
Cool. Dylan?
I currently have Colby Wooden as a second round guy. I think it's going to be Derek late first, early second. Round 2, you're going to see Colby Wooden go. I said 3 to 4, Papo. 3 to 7 really is my tank Bigsby. And I feel like that's going to be an Eku Leota. It's going to be like 5 to 7.
Yeah, I talked to Eku down in Mobile a lot. And I was like, where do you think he's going? He's like, dude, I have people tell me 3rd. I've had people call and tell my agent 6. He's like, dude, I've been told all over the place. And I'm like, well, I hope it's the third option. That'd be great. He's like, dude, me too, man. Me too. I mean, what a great guy, Eku. And like, I don't think we really got to know, like we being like Auburn people, I don't think we really got to know Eku because he's kind of like a soft-spoken guy. And so they didn't put him on the podium a whole lot because, I mean, it takes a minute to really kind of get him talking. But
Sure.
what a great like human being. I wish we would have had him longer than just 2 years because he's a great human. There's no doubt about it.
Also would have loved for him not to get banged up in 2022 because he's a hell of a football player.
I mean, if you take the second half of his first year and the first few games of his second year and like make a full season out of it, it's pretty remarkable. Like what he did. I mean,
Tremendous.
Yeah, it's just we never really got a full season out of him, sadly.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think Eku's is I guess a sleeper pickup, and someone he's going to make an NFL team very happy. I also no reason I have any bias, but I also think Pat Bush is going to be a little bit of a steal, but that's just me.
Sure.
No reason on that front. Blackerby, let everybody know where they can find more of your work, support you, love you, or not listen to you if they don't want to. I'm kidding.
No, I hope you listen or watch Locked on Auburn, available wherever you get your podcast or on YouTube. New shows dropping every single day, and all of our written work is at auburndaily.com.
Zac, thank you so much for coming on the show. Dylan,
Hey.
I'll let you do the little jumpy jump.
All right. Love you a long time.
Yes, big thank you to Zac Blackerby, a really great dude, great analyst, just flat out good at his job. And it's always a special treat to be able to spend some time and talk ball with him. Just someone I've looked up to for a very long time. Let's talk basketball, guys. Let's bring it to the hardwood. All three of us were in attendance for Auburn's massive W over Tennessee on Saturday. And we talked about that on the Sunday episode. Really building momentum. I think the Tigers are locked in my opinion. I think they're locked into the big dance. I think that's pretty safe to say. You're for sure locked in if you take care of business on Thursday against Arkansas. This is a team that looks, Daniel, you mentioned it on Saturday night, I believe, or on Sunday, the Sunday show, rather. This team looks different. This Arkansas team is not the same team that Auburn had its way with at Neville Arena earlier in the year.
Right.
Walk me through what Auburn needs to do to take care of business in the first round. I don't really think you have to make that deep of a push in the SEC tournament. Personally, I don't. I do think you need to win a game.
Yeah. So for me, the biggest thing kind of riding on the SEC tournament for Auburn, since I don't think they're going to win, like just being candid. I don't think either of you guys do either.
The whole tournament?
Right.
No, not at all.
Okay. Right now, the biggest thing I feel like Auburn's playing for is to play the first 2 games of the NCAA tournament in Birmingham.
Sure.
Is the biggest thing riding on this right now. So whatever it takes to make that happen, I believe they would need to be a 7 seed would probably do that. So in order to get there, I think you need 2 wins.
Okay.
I think you need to win Thursday, and I think you need to win Friday. Then whatever happens Saturday happens. And if they are playing Sunday, I think they could be as high as a 5 or a 6 seed. I really do. But just kind of starting with Arkansas, you've got to get out to an early run. That's something that Auburn's gotten better at as the years gone along.
Sure.
I remember in those non-conference games, I think it was Colgate or South Florida. They just came out absolutely flat, and it just felt like one of those games like, oh, we should be killing this team, and we're just not. You've got to start out strong, which, like I said, they've been better at. You can't blow another 17-point lead with 9 minutes on the clock. Not going to dive further into that. But you just kind of what the things that happened on Saturday against Tennessee, if you just kind of replicate that, I think you're in good shape. 24 from Wendell. I feel like I don't think you need that per se. I mean, it'd be nice by all means. But yeah, just solid play. You don't need anything crazy.
I don't disagree. I'm with you. Probably need 2 wins to make the magic happen and be able to play in Birmingham. If you win one, everything else is gravy. That's kind of my mentality. Like I said, I think you're in anyways. And Dylan, you may even be more confident than I am about that. I think you're in anyways. But winning never hurts you. Under no circumstance does it hurt you. And if this team pieces together a little run, I mean, they could find themselves playing on Sunday. I don't think they will, but they could. I mean, we've seen crazier things. Look at what Georgia Tech did in the ACC tournament 2 years ago. And I know this is a Tech callback, but like they, for no reason, just won the ACC with, quite frankly, not a lot of talent. And we've seen crazier things happen. Look at the SEC women's tournament a couple years ago when Kentucky was really, really bad and just won the tournament. We've seen crazier things happen. I don't think Auburn's got that capacity because I think this is the most level playing field that we've seen in the SEC in quite some time, just to be candid. But I think that your biggest challenge to get to Sunday, and this is me kind of taking it a different direction, but also kind of staying on the same topic, I would not be as worried about the Arkansas game as I would be a potential A&M game. You've got to worry one game at a time. Sure, understand that. If you beat Arkansas, your reward is playing a team that you have been swept by this year, a team that Bruce Pearl's historically not good with a coach. Bruce Pearl's historically not good at defeating. If A&M were to just kind of body you for a third time this year, that might be the biggest late season cause of concern, barring a 17-point blown lead in the Alabama game. I mean, that really is the big question mark. That would be the telltale of, can you make adjustments, right? The chances of running into a repeat opponent in March Madness, much more slim. Not out of the picture, but slim. If you can take care of business and show that you can adjust this week, there is reason to believe that this team could be a Sweet 16 team. I'm really not over-exaggerating. I don't think that that's unreasonable. Beyond that, it gets kind of weird. I did want to talk to you guys. We always talk Auburn-centric, and we're not really here to dissect a ton of other stuff. Alabama's clearly the team to beat this weekend in Nashville. Is there a team that could quite possibly win the SEC tournament not named Alabama? And I think there's a couple.
Yeah.
Daniel, go ahead.
Tennessee could, Kentucky could, A&M could. I think that's it.
I would agree to that sentiment. I wouldn't rule out Auburn. And I, like I said, I don't think that they're going to win the SEC tournament. I think there are 5 teams that are serious contenders, and I think Auburn's at the bottom of that list of teams that could win the SEC tournament. Guys, I got a hard time believing Tennessee's not going to bounce back. I find it hard to believe. Rick Barnes had his guys in that game at Neville Arena in the most hostile environment that arena has been this year, because Auburn needed to win so damn bad. And they kind of didn't flinch. I know that they didn't win, but they didn't flinch. Now you're missing Zakai Ziegler, which he's kind of a money machine in March. Dylan, is there a team not named Alabama, other than Tennessee, maybe comes to mind? If Tennessee's your choice, that's fine. I think there's a handful of teams that could win this SEC tournament.
Yeah, I'm looking at the bracket as we speak, and I was going to, in a second, I'll talk about Auburn probably having the hardest route to getting to the championship game of the tournament. But I'm looking at teams like Texas A&M. I think they have the players in mind right there. Kentucky, I think they're back on the upward incline for them. And you know what? I'm going to keep an eye out for co-coach of the year Jerry Stackhouse and the Vanderbilt Commodores, because
sure.
Why not? They were right in the picture there last year, and of course they don't have Scottie Pippen Jr. anymore, but they have the Defensive Player of the Year and Liam Robbins on that team.
Sure.
But for Auburn, it's you got to play your best basketball over the next 4 games.
Well, you're past the point of being able to play sloppy basketball at all.
Oh, well, yeah.
You're gone. That ship has sailed.
But you have Arkansas on Thursday. Friday, you got to play a team that's your kryptonite with Texas A&M. And then right after that, Kentucky more than likely. And then you get the repeat of Alabama. So you get Arkansas, the team that has gotten way better since you beat them, the team that swept you twice already, the team that beat you by 32,
sure.
And then, of course, another team that swept you.
Sure.
So for Auburn to win, it's a little past just playing your best basketball. You're going to have to play perfect for 4 games. And that's Auburn getting hot at the right time. And that's when the tournament team should probably keep an eye out. Because right now, from what I see from the seeding, Auburn is listed from an 8 seed to an 11 seed based on what me and Lance talked about in the Auburn Daily show today. Go watch that if you haven't already. But if Auburn finds a way to win out this tournament, of course, you move to the 5 seed. And I've gotten mad at Auburn fans before. I've gotten mad at Tarr. If Auburn goes into this as a 5 seed, there's going to be a lot of comparisons being drawn to a former Auburn team that was a 5 seed going into the tournament and that won the tournament as SEC tournament as well. So a lot of talking points going on with this Auburn team.
Daniel, I don't know how I caught a stray from Dylan just there, but that felt a little uncalled for. I'm going to go ahead and earn that stray. I'm going to earn it.
Those comparisons don't do anybody any good.
Okay.
I mean, it's sort of like the Cam Newton curse.
Sure. That's what Dylan said.
Jeremy Johnson or
Jeremy Johnson
slander
on this podcast.
It wasn't slander. I was just saying that he was compared to Cam Newton, and then
it's an unfair pedestal, right?
Yeah, it is.
So if it happens, phenomenal. But just yeah.
All right. So I get in trouble for sunshine pumping on this show. I do. So what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm going to sunshine pump for 1 second here. If there's one intangible about beating Tennessee that really should give Auburn fans hope, and I play devil's advocate for football. I'm sorry, you play devil's advocate for basketball, Dylan. It's just how our dynamic balances out here on this show. If there's one intangible that I don't think we can express enough, Auburn looked at a win or go home game on Saturday, did not bat an eye, came home with a W, did not matter how they did it. Every single game that Auburn will play for the rest of the season is win or go home in some capacity. If you don't beat Arkansas, you go back home and you regroup for the tournament, more than likely, sure. At least the NIT. I don't think that's in the cards. I think it's the NCAA tournament, like I said. But you're going to play another game. Regardless, it's win or go home. You get to that round of 64, it's win or go home from there on out. AJ Rivera said it the best, and I won't disclose his his burner account. I almost said his Barner account, which is the same difference, because I know he would like to remain anonymous on that part. But AJ Rivera said a great point to me at lunch on Saturday after the Auburn Tennessee game. Once you get to March, it's the first team to win 5 games. Once you get to March Madness, it's the first team to win 5 games, and it really doesn't matter how good you were beforehand. It's a clean slate. Auburn should use that to its advantage, because there are going to be plenty of people that have counted them down and out. And at one point of this year, one of us on the show was already ready to do it. I've stayed steadfast. Daniel has remained in the middle ground on my camp. Daniel's been a little bit of Switzerland, and I appreciate that. We needed that. I'm not throwing in the towel yet. There were flashes, and the rotations have been better. Say what you want. This past week has been the best Auburn basketball we've seen in a long time.
From the starting 5, though, yes.
Sure. Here comes Mr. Debbie Downer, bench points, my ass. There are people that step up in March Madness. There are people who are fold under pressure. This team didn't fold on Saturday, and that's an immeasurable. Another team that didn't fold. Let's keep moving, guys. Let's keep moving. Auburn baseball didn't blink this weekend.
Nope.
3 games, 3 wins. I know you had to walk it off on Saturday. At some point, a W is a W is a W is a W. We say it on here all the time. You got the sweep on Sunday. You walked it off on Saturday. The offense is clicking almost to the point where Butch is probably ready to be like, okay, we're almost ready for SEC tournament. Not SEC me, SEC play, no, excuse me. Still in basketball mode. Did that in the interview earlier. Happens. The pitching rotation on Sunday, the pitching group, they impressed me. Holding a team to 3 on Sundays is pretty uncommon. Guys, is this team starting to level out? And not level out, but reach. Okay, we know who we are now. Daniel? Or Dylan, whatever. Go ahead.
Yeah, I believe so. I'm looking at the pitching staff and looking at how well they played on Sunday. And you gotta remember, Auburn's down their best pitcher until SEC conference play starts in a couple of weeks. So we're not going to see Joseph Gonzalez until Arkansas is our first conference opponent, I believe. I believe that's what I've heard.
Arkansas on March 17th. St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah. So wear your green. They're going to be Kelly green all over the place. So Auburn is going into into 5 games in 6 days this week without their best pitcher. There's going to be no holds barred on Alsip, on John Armstrong, on Drew Nelson, on Ryan Olsen even. Like, all those guys are going to be getting those quality innings pitched. And, I mean, all eyes on Auburn right now for that pitching staff.
Hey, John Armstrong, man. I mean, this kid's
he's
impressed me to this point. He's already
out of
4-0.
his mind.
He's pitched 12 innings and he's given up 4 earned runs and pitching to an ERA of 3. Greg Olson said it best. He's going to be able to bounce around in this bullpen. And if this is your early season non-con showings when you're trying to like work through your mechanics and get yourself composed, this guy's going to be tough to hit, specifically for righties. Now, Greg brought up a great point and spit some facts about lefties being able to see the ball a lot longer. It's just math and science. It just makes sense. But this rotation has impressed me, and I don't want to let it slip between the cracks about what Zach Crotchfeld did on Saturday. You come in as a true freshman, you throw 4 innings, you give up 2 earned runs. Guys, that's a very solid debut. That is completely fine at the collegiate level. I was impressed. Composure, pitch control, velo, all where you want it to be for a guy. I mean, you could reach for the stars, sure. But that's where you want it to be from a guy that you're testing the waters and getting his feet wet. You don't want him, doesn't have to throw 6 innings. I don't know that many of the starters are going to have to throw 6 innings this year. But he comes in and he really, for all intents and purposes, gets the job done, keeps you in the game. That's what your starter's there for. I'm impressed, Daniel.
Yeah. And just kind of before I get into that, like walk-off wins are always good.
Sure.
No matter who it's against. I think it's always good to get those like 9th inning comeback reps.
Sure.
So I was pleased to see that. But yeah, bullpen looks solid. They really do, all things considered. As well as the whole pitching staff. Like obviously Gonzo's huge and you need him back as soon as possible. You don't want to rush it, but just as soon as he's good to go. But if they can perform like this without him,
in good shape, and that continues to build in your midweek games. Auburn's got what you might call the Alabama gauntlet coming up this week. They get to play host to UAB on Tuesday night. So as this show comes out tonight at 6 p.m., that'll be on Plainsman Park on SEC Network Plus. For those of you who want to tune in, I'm raising my hand because I will be tuned in. Very excited.
I wish it was flipped and this was the game in Birmingham while I'm in Birmingham, and then the game the 2 teams play in Auburn is.
They should have asked you. They should have asked you.
Yeah, I know,
I'll root at them. And then on Wednesday, they'll head over to Jacksonville, Alabama, and play Jacksonville State. I say it a million times on this podcast. I love when you play in state schools for your non-con games.
Yeah,
it's just good for athletics within the state and good to keep the money within the state and makes me feel mentally. I think it just makes more sense to me. And it's fun. It's fun for these smaller schools to get to play host to an Auburn. And
then in addition to that, like these are good ball teams.
Absolutely. Good clubs that can compete for their conferences and help your RPI. And you'll get to throw some arms, knock on wood. Now, Dylan and I were there last year when Auburn dropped a game to Jacksonville State at home. It happens. But these are games where you're theoretically going to be able to test out some arms, see what works, see what doesn't work, what places in the lineup work, what don't. And we'll talk later in the week about this weekend's matchup, but just going ahead and looking ahead. Southeastern Louisiana, that should ring some bells because they were in Auburn last year for a regional. This is not a cupcake, and we talked about this with Lindsey Crosby, but it is also an opportunity to plug and chug, right? It's like when you're taking the SAT and you get to that, it's laid out where the math level gets increasingly harder as the SAT or ACT goes on. And you're like, all right, so now I'm at the point where I'm going to plug and chug A, B, and C and figure out what works. It's kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Let's see if pitcher A works in this scenario. If pitcher B can pitch against lefties or righties the way that they pitched against them in high school or at their last school. It's like a science project where it's trial and error. You have your hypothesis, you test it, and then you draw your conclusions and get ready for SEC. The SEC conference play is your science fair display. And I kind of like that little analogy, actually. That was off the dome too, man. I just kind of came up with that.
The
but
College
this
Loop,
is
known for their analogies.
you're so not wrong. I get it from Will Cruz. I get it honest. I can never be like that guy though. I'm excited, and Auburn fans should be excited for this group because I think they could be better than last year. I really do.
And I mean, if you want to use this as a transition point for a team that can be better than last year,
I put the ball on the tee for you.
Oh yeah, and I like Bree Ellis in the first inning against Bowling Green. I'm going to take that and knock it right out of the park. Going to softball, who is now 20-2 following their Sunday win over Bowling Green, 8-0 in 5 innings, of course, as you know, per usual. And I am passing the torch over from me to my girlfriend, my beautiful girlfriend, who has never not witnessed a Bree bomb. she is now the good luck charm in her conversion over to an Auburn fan. She's not an Auburn super fan. She just contacted Mr. Harrison Tarr about a potential B&B in Oklahoma City. So she's all no holds barred on Auburn making it to the College World Series in softball. But yeah, great
I love it.
game. Great game against Bowling Green. You got both Maddie Penta getting her 11th win of the season. And if you're unaware of her record right now, it is 11-0. So, and of course, Shelby Lowe also pitched that game. No runs given up yet again between those two.
Not ultra surprising, given the fact that we overheard some conversations from the players after Saturday night's conclusion of the Saturday installment of the Jamie Moore Invitational or Memorial, rather, where the girls were like, so we got away with a win here. Fell to South Alabama in a game that they know they shouldn't have lost.
Yeah,
that's nothing against South Alabama. We've talked before. That's a good ball club.
Yeah,
that's just a good ball club that's going to be very good in the Sun Belt this year. That was unsurprising that they handed out a butt whooping on Sunday, because that group knows they're capable of playing better softball than that. They're going to have to on Wednesday.
Oh, for sure. And before we start previewing that game, I just want to bring up something that if you weren't watching the game, if you weren't unaware of the game, if you don't know how good Bri Ellis is, so in the second inning, bases loaded for Auburn, 2 outs. Up comes Bri Ellis. And this pitcher for Bowling Green had every intention of walking her with the bases loaded.
The Greg Olson, Barry Bonds treatment.
But instead, the ball got away from her and she hit Bri in the back. The pitcher was pitching a little slow, so it didn't hurt. Probably didn't hurt that much, but it probably hurt a little bit. But you get a nice little run off of a hit pitch, because that ball was not going over the plate at all. That pitcher was just trying to get it out of her way, which that's how good she is. If you're going to walk someone with the bases loaded, that lets you know that should be the upstanding. Oh, I'm good at the sport moment.
Let me piggyback while you're talking about Bri Ellis for a second. I don't want it to get lost in the sauce what Carly McConaughey is doing this year, what Nelia Peralta is doing this year, what Lindsey Garcia, KK McRae, Jesse Blaine, Aspen Godwin, Isis Tresvik, the names go on and on. 1 to 9, your lowest batting average right now is 289, Isis Tresvik, and she has trended upward as of late. This team is hard to pitch to.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I've said it before, I'll say it a million times. They're an above average fielding team. I think that's fair. They are an elite level offensive team. And now you've got the arms to complement it. You look at what Annabelle Wilder's doing. Wydra, excuse me. I keep wanting to say Wildra. I'm sorry. Annabelle Widra's doing in the circle. We know what Shelby Lowe is doing in the circle. We don't know what Maddie Penta is doing in the circle. You got to play around with some other arms this year. You pair those two things alone, and you play average to above average defense, you're going to win a boatload of softball games.
Yeah. And we have to sunshine pop Bri Ellis a little bit because, of course, she's been on the show. But 7 home runs for Bri Ellis so far this season. I mean, that's going to go even higher. But right after her, Isis
Lindsey Garcia.
Exactly. Lindsey Garcia. Isis has 5 home runs. Lindsey has 4. Nelia, Aspen, and Annabelle, 3 amongst those. And, I mean, there's not a single – I don't think there's a single starting lineup player that doesn't have a home run. Carly McConaughey has a home run. KK McCrary, home run. Jesse Blaine, home run. And if you go further than that, Axe has a home run, which great nickname, by the way. Yep. And Maya Engelkeys also has a home run. I mean, this team just rakes.
22 games, 30 bombs. That's all we need to say. It's hard to pitch to this team, and Georgia Tech's going to have a fit on Wednesday. Now, that's not a gimme game. Let's remember, you're playing a very above competent, well beyond competent and above average Georgia Tech team, and I believe, check me if I'm wrong here, I believe that game's on the road where you're going and taking on Georgia. Yes, yeah. You'll be running the Georgia gauntlet this weekend. Baseball's running the Alabama gauntlet, softball's running the Georgia gauntlet. Well, they'll kick that off in Atlanta, in my old stomping grounds, on Wednesday evening, or 1 o'clock afternoon game since it's spring break. And then you'll head to Athens to take on UGA this weekend, which we will talk about on the Thursday show. That being said, I'm glad that Dylan picked this up. Welcome to the crap show of our first giveaway for the College Loop. We have an autographed Bree Ellis softball Auburn stamped. If you want to show the Auburn branding right there, it's the official Auburn softball. I overpaid for it on the company card, which is also just my debit card. So we're giving this away on Twitter. Dylan's going to make sure we get some cool pictures up on it. I promise if you need authenticity, I'm sure someone's got the photo for signing it. You take our word for it, but I promise it's real. Bree has our back on this one. We'll be giving it away. All you have to do is make sure you're following and subscribe to the College Loop on all platforms. If you've got them, if not, we'll work with you. It's going to be a Twitter giveaway, but make sure you're following, like, and retweet. And we're going to ask you guys who your favorite Auburn athlete of all time is. We want to know. I'm curious. I mean, that's a fun. We talk about our Mount Rushmores all the time. It could be the best player. It could be your Bo Jacksons. It could be the most fun player. It could be a Leor Berman. It could be someone who's coming in next year. You could be really big on Jeremiah Cobb. That's cool with us too. Just tell us who your favorite Auburn athlete of all time or who you're the most excited to see in the future. And you'll get this Bree Ellis autographed softball if you are selected the winner. Like I said, it will be randomized. I mentioned this on the Sunday show. Daniel and I will make sure we pick the winner because Dylan would probably say, oh, wow, it's at your boy the Tank. That's the winner.
No.
So we will make sure that it is not rigged. Big thank you to Bree, by the way, for hooking us up with this and being so generous. We appreciate the Ellis family and everything that they've done to support us to this point. They're just a damn good group of folks and some people that just really love softball. And talking to her mother was we learned so much about college softball and we're fans of the game, but just getting to interact with this family and learning more about the game has been nothing short of a privilege. Something else that's been nothing short of a privilege, spending my birthday with you gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me all the time. And I'm glad we're in this thing together. To quote Troy Bolton from High School Musical, we're all in this together. I know I just made Dylan cringe, but I got to laugh out of Daniel. So that's all that really matters. Daniel, let's start a little round. So letting everybody know where we can find our work and we'll get out of here. I'm looking forward to seeing these people again on Thursday.
Absolutely. So follow me on Twitter at Daniel J. Locke. You can find my written work for the Opelika Observer or any Auburn student media outlet. And I actually have a Bree Ellis feature story that'll be coming out on Thursday. So stay tuned for that. Very excited. Always good to talk with Bree. So yeah.
Right on. I am Harrison Tarr at by Harrison Tarr. Like you read my byline on a newspaper at Twitter. On Twitter, rather. You can check out all of my written work at the Auburn Daily. I've got some NFL draft stuff coming up. Dylan's just now learning about this. He's learning as we're all in the air. I will be handling the NFL draft coverage in tandem over at the Auburn Daily. He's giving me the side eye because he doesn't think I'm capable of doing it. I am built for this, Dylan. You can check out any more of my podcasting work at the Auburn Daily Show every Wednesday and Friday. Wednesday with Dylan, Larck, Lindsay. Whoop. How about Friday with the lovely Lindsay Crosby? I got ahead of myself there. Make sure you check out all of that work over there at theauburndaily.com. Super fun. Really looking forward to a lot of cool stuff we've got coming up this spring. 8A's around the corner. Frank Thomas statue unveilings around the corner. A lot of fun stuff coming up on the loop later this week too. Dylan, I had a big spiel today. I'm sorry. It's yours, man.
All right. Well, you can follow me on Twitter at your boy the Tank. That's at YABOI the Tank. Also catch me in the Auburn Daily Show every Monday and Wednesday. Catch yesterday's episode where me and Lance Daw talked all things Auburn in the SEC tournament and NCAA tournament. And of course, Wednesday's episode where me and Tarr don't really know what we're going to talk about just quite yet, but I'm sure we'll find something about Auburn related to talk about. Of course, follow the College Loop literally everywhere. That's Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. We are now on Google Podcasts, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Amazon Music, but we are not on MySpace quite yet. So sad. But with all that being said, the College Loop Podcast.